Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your host SMG Clicks and Omar, bringing you a new subject on today's Talk Night. Today we'll be talking about bullying and how it connects to racism, and if it does connect to racism or not. we
So obviously, recently in the world, racism has become a topic of discussion, to say the least. And we thought we'd put our input on this topic and perhaps analyze how uh, bullying and racism could be linked or not linked.
yeah. First of all, we can discuss the types of bullying that happens in today's world, and if any do actually affect or tie in with racism. So, the most there, of course, there is a lot of bullying, there's mainly though, there's four types of bullying. It could either be physical, verbal, social, or cyberbullying. I mean, verbal and social are kind of the same, but let's just go through each one and let's analyze how it affects or how it ties in with racism. First of all, physical bullying.
So when it comes to physical bullying, um, that actually hits close to home when it comes to uh, obviously recently the the whole deal with George Floyd. You could say that he was bullied physically, perhaps bullied to the point of death even.
Yeah,
Uh,
he it says here hitting, kicking, tripping, pinching, pushing. I mean, the officer had a leg on his neck, which choked him out, which contributes to some kind of physicality there. I mean, we both. I encountered a lot of bullying in my life, especially when I was young. Um, it was mostly social and physical bullying. But anyway, so George Floyd, in my opinion, he was definitely physically bullied, and he was not given mercy by the police officers when asked for.
but you know, I was thinking about it, and should we call that bullying or should we call that abuse? Because in my head, like the way I think about it is that bullying someone usually is because uh, the bully sees something in that person that they wish they had, or it's not that, or they see that that person doesn't have a problem that the bully himself has. So he tries to project his anger towards the person that's being bullied. And what was was the was that really how the officer felt when he was attacking or when he had his knee on Floyd's neck?
We need to ask ourselves another question also. If he was white, would have he done that? Now, in my generally, I would say no, he wouldn't.
Hmm.
And in this case, I would say no as well, because George Floyd didn't project any violence towards the officer. He didn't do anything that was concerning enough for the officer to actually, choke him down. I mean, he could have just put him in handcuffs and just held him to the car, and it would have went fine. And I'm sure if anyone, maybe the girl who was, or the person who was recording the whole situation, if he actually would have, if they would have interfered, they would have got into more trouble. I mean, I just find it funny that such a hopeless person gets this much, dies from basically not doing anything. Um, but yeah, I just find it I just find it like there's no mercy in that, in my opinion.
Mm. So, uh, so was the officer? I guess so. Yeah, you would say that the officer felt that uh, George was inferior to him, that he was less of a human being, that it was he did that he deserved getting uh, a knee on his neck. So that's obviously racism, and that's why a lot of people have um, went out protesting. Obviously,
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I just want to add something. If George Floyd did something and maybe he killed someone, robbed a store, then he would have deserved that kind of treatment. And people would have, in my opinion, they would have never protested if George Floyd wasn't actually innocent. Do you
well,
agree? Do you agree?
actually, um, I mean, some people uh, do bring out, like, when defending the cops, some people do bring out the argument that George Floyd had a criminal record. He committed some crimes, but the people defending George Floyd are saying that the what the officer did was a direct act of racism. It wasn't a process of arresting, but a process of
Yeah.
uh, abuse
Hatred.
and maybe bullying.
Yeah, it was hatred. Like you could see in the video, it was hatred between the officer and. I mean, he said he couldn't breathe. He like it was clear in the video and to the officer. He said he couldn't breathe. So if he didn't, if there was no hatred or like some sort of unlike likeness for like if there wasn't any sort of we shall say racism towards George Floyd, he would have at least give him a bit of space to breathe. Now that's disregarding any of the any of the accusations or any of the crimes he actually did. This is just plain mercy. I've never like this situation I've never seen happen to a white person, or maybe once or twice, but not as current as it happens to black people, and that's why they protesting so much right now because it happened for so many years. And to be honest, like till this day, I just think the world should grow up. Like just we're all the same. Man, woman, black, white. We're just all humans at the end of the day, and that's the bottom line of it.
There's definitely lots of truth in that, and I think that even this case, or the let's say the protests, weren't just caused by George Floyd's death. There have been many deaths before that, but the death of George Floyd was
Ignited people.
yeah, it was so clear and so vivid to anyone who's viewing the video that the there was more to it than just an arrest. There was a crime being committed against humanity there, and I think that's what pushed people over the edge. Because for the longest time, black people, I mean, African Americans have said that, or have noted that they get treated differently by the police, but perhaps it took such a violent image for everyone to confirm that idea in their heads.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand what makes us or white people in general better than black. I just don't get it. Like, why do you think this people has this kind of mentality? Is it because in like before racism was going on for a long time, and maybe because black people were slaves in the old times? Is that why till this day we still think we're like white people are still superior to black?
So, I mean, it might go back to slavery, but um, it's more nuanced than that, because um, in some people, or in some religions, it is preached that, you know a slave is equal to a free person. They're both they both have the same worth. It's is that I think it has to do with it goes back into um, colonialism, and the idea that if someone is inferior to you socially, then you know, they you've earned the right to colonize them, and then that obviously transpired into general just
Hey,
disrespect and
hatred.
a lack of worth for the people of Africa, you know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Like, it's just it's like so okay. White people like I just don't understand. Like it really baffles me. Like why like why is this going on? Why can't we all just make peace and just live normal lives? Why does it require so many black people to go out and protest? Why don't they have the luxury to stay home and feel safe? Like why? I mean
It's not a luxury, it's a right, you know.
it's not even, yeah, it's alright. I mean, earning rights is a luxury. It's something that everyone should have. Everyone should have certain rights, and it's just and it's just makes me feel sad. You know, it's sad that we have to go through this in 2020, and it's making me sad that we are not focusing on the actual pandemic that's affecting the whole world. That's what should be our main focus, not trying to not like we shouldn't just we shouldn't like black people. They should have rights just as much as white people, and I just don't know when this will stop, and hopefully soon. Like honestly, this is becoming out of hand now.
So, I mean, you mentioned the pandemic as well. Um, I mean, um, it's definitely. I mean, who knows? Maybe it had to do something with just how the situation transpired. Perhaps if there wasn't a quarantine, or if there wasn't you know, a lockdown, and if there were more people on the streets, perhaps the cops wouldn't have done what they have.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think we just got lucky that there was that one person who decided to film the whole thing.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, now when I first questioned the actual person, if he, I mean, if like I mean, either a relative or not, if I see a person getting choked, I would go and help them. But you know, the guy, the person filming, he couldn't actually help him, or he would have went into more trouble, which I just find ridiculous, honestly. Uh, like it's still a soul
Yes.
dying, no matter what he ever did in his life. It's still a soul that he didn't die by justice. That's what I'm trying to say. He didn't die by justice. He didn't die by an actual order from the court or something like that. He didn't get his right to get a lawyer and any of that stuff. Do you know what I mean? He didn't die by his rights.
Yeah, the cop made the judgment, not the judge, the court.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
so the officer didn't just disrespect black people in general. He disrespected like his because black like cops, they're not on the highest place, like or highest class in terms of law. You know, the judge, he's the one who decides. So he's being disrespectful to the law that's actually put by America. He didn't respect that. I know, and it disgusts me that he's even a cop. You know, he doesn't respect his morals that he should have respected.
You know, maybe in his mind he thought that all he did was kill a black man, but what he did really was just
Stop.
disrespect his entire country,
Yeah.
which the same country he was supposed to be protecting, the same, you know, the same people he's supposed to be protecting, but instead um, he disrespected all of that. He threw all of that out of the window and just took took matters to his hands, or you know,
Yeah.
knees.
I mean, he did take it to his own hands, but was it under pressure or by choice? And clearly in the video, it was by choice. Clearly, he could have just stepped off, and George Floyd would have, listened to his orders. He wasn't
Mhm.
resisting, so he can't charge him for resisting arrest. You know, That's a felony. If you don't, if you resist arrest, that's more stuff added. But he didn't. He was just there, literally, on the ground, helpless. Yeah.
And that just makes you think like, what did the cop feel like? Was he what did he feel pressure that he has to perhaps prove himself or prove his race or prove his power or prove whatever he thinks he needs to prove?
Mm.
Like, what is that really what he needed? You know?
Yeah. Is that, and especially like he's a cop though. Like, do you know? Like, he's a cop. He protects all people. He wouldn't go in, like, he wouldn't just see a black man and white man just getting, like, both of them getting fired on. He decides to save one of them. It's his job to save all of them, and if he couldn't, then he could save whoever he can save. Like, it's just my opinion. Like, this type of cop, if he saw a white man getting shot and a black man, he would try to save a white man, which I find
Perhaps.
ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it's sad. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just I keep like bringing it up, but it's so sad that our world still has racism in it, especially in America. Like, and like the cops as well. Cops, come on, man. The cops are we're the people that look out for us. The people that we call when we're in trouble. And do we really want to call that type of people when we're in trouble? Do we want to call people that just don't care about lives? Do we want to do that, or do we just want to call like people that would just do the right thing and actually listen to the law that they should obey? You know?
Not definitely. Even just a few weeks ago, last month, there was a young black man who was shot dead by um, two white men with shotguns, just because he was jogging in the neighborhood and they were suspicious of him. So this shows that perhaps it's not just the cops. There's a whole, you know, just belief in place, or fear, because fear is a driving factor of this whole thing. Is the white man afraid of the black man, and uh, are they were in his mind, is he thinking that if they let the black people be equal to them or superior or whatever, that they're gonna lose their self-worth? you know there's definitely fear in place when it comes to the white community, and there is also fear in the black community, and fear only creates trouble, war, and death ultimately.
Yeah. We didn't really tackle the different other types of bullying. We have cyberbullying. Um,
Yeah, again, when it comes to cyberbullying, you don't see the other person on the other side of the screen, so perhaps that type of bullying doesn't link
but people
racism.
actually get really, yeah. It's not linked, but it's actually really dangerous kind of bullying. I mean, people, if you there's some cases that people actually commit suicide just because of hate they get from online users. I mean, I found that to be completely and utterly ridiculous. I mean, like, to drive someone to commit suicide by not even seeing him and just like, it's honestly, uh it's like, it's disgusting, honestly.
Yeah, some people's brains just function in a way that's you know
Mm.
just very surprising to say the least.
Yeah, and these suicides are normally before the age of like 19, which is a fine. It's still, they're still growing, they're still developing their brain, but they still thinking about committing, and all of these thought like actions that lead to sadness to all the people that they love. And I just find it a little bit, and it connects also to verbal racism, like you can be racist through text. That's just or voice messages, for example. Yeah, you can still be racist, but it doesn't tie in a lot to the whole situation that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think actually looking at it from that angle, verbal racism is uh, like when someone's verbally racist, people just look at that person as the exception or whatever. Or but when it's physical, there's or when, especially when it leads to death, uh, people look at it as a failure of the system in place. Thus, the protests.
Mhm. Yeah. And I hear I have a list of suicides that happen to be like, and all I see is age 13, 14, 15. Like, it's kind of confirms the idea of people that committing before the age of 20 or 19. Yeah, and verbal bullying in actual life, like we see that a lot. Like when police officers just they're plainly racist, or they just say like bad terms, cursing to any type of people, to be honest. But they also sometimes be racist. They say the N word and say, you know, all these type of things that could hurt a person's feeling and could lead the person to actually attack the officer, therefore leading to him going to a court or something. It's such a big subject that that just needs to be stopped. Honest, and all our like all types of bullying needs to be stopped.
I definitely agree with you on that. And uh, yeah, it's just it will require a change in society, a change that unfortunately like decades of activism
Mhm.
haven't been able to achieve. And um, while I mean today I think if you look at the world, there are you it's hard to find like major black right leaders
Mhm.
uh, compared to back in the a few decades ago, when we had people like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. They were leaders of the movement, and nowadays it's not as organized. People have perhaps are all trying to reach the same thing, but perhaps it would be beneficial to have a central voice to just
Yeah.
facilitate and facilitate the thoughts of the people, the ideas of the people, and just be able to be the mouth of the people and the mind of the people, so they can communicate what they truly need instead of just doing the protests, which protests aren't bad, but when they're unorganized,
There's no point.
that yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, hey, at least actually in the U.S., um, in many states, uh, changes are being implemented, whether it be cops having to to record whatever they're doing, and these recordings have to be published within 2 weeks to assure that any incidents or racism committed by the police is recorded and documented and acted upon
Mhm.
by the higher powers and so on.
Yeah, I was definitely bullied a lot when I was younger. Verbal, physical, more so verbal. Um,
Hmm.
we have this sort the like we have here this sort of racism to each other, actually, not to other people. Like we have it
Mm,
on the the Arabian side. We have some like other sort of bullying. The sort of like I'm rich, you're poor. That's
yeah,
why we should. That's why you're a lower place than me.
yeah. So again, that comes to, I think, the idea of, as you mentioned, like in America, the source of racism could possibly be um, the the European way of thinking of how, uh, back in the colonial era, um, be, being culturally superior in quotation marks to another person gave you the right to just c- c- colonize them and basically declare yourself superior to them
Mhm.
as a human, not just as as a society or whatever. No, to the point of it being that you think that you're a better human than them,
Mm, yeah.
and that kind of translates into the Middle East, where even people who speak the same language and have the same religion, but have slightly different cultures, whether one be more developed because of money or whatever, they there are still conflicts between them because one thinks they're superior to the other.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, it's just someone thinking he's not actually superior. No one is superior over the other. We're all equal. Like at the end of the day, we're just all humans, and we're just. It doesn't matter what the skin color is. Honestly, I don't find it. Why? What does it do with like? Why does why do white people hate? Like not all of them. Obviously, not all people white people hate. But it's enough white people hate black people that we need to discuss this type of subject.
Yes, obviously, we're sorry for generalizing sometimes, but you know what we mean.
Yeah, of course. And the way to stop bullying in general, not like racism, it's kind of like it's hard to figure out how to stop it. How to change people's minds, but we can change like bullying in general. Not all like bullies are actual, there's just psychopaths, not all of them. It's only like a little bit of them, but there are some people that like can be changed if they just were corrected to a path of like to their religion, or if they were intellectual, or they get information enough on what they actually do to other people. I mean, if a bullier knew uh, what he did to other people, I think in my opinion he at least he would decrease the amount he bullies someone. Like if he knew that this person could lead to committing himself because of that bully, that kind of changes a person. It's not normal.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely recognizing that uh, there is someone of higher power who can do the exact same thing to you that you did to the to other people. It just it puts you in place. Uh, you're not as likely to to harm a person when you know that the exact same thing can be done to you by a person of higher authority or power,
Yeah.
and that's partly why perhaps the cops were uh, so just thoughtlessly committed the murder of
George Floyd.
uh, yep, and because they just know that the American law probably won't punish them with death, so
Yeah,
uh,
I wasn't so
you know just,
lucky, and I'm sorry to cut you, but I wasn't so lucky in my lifetime to actually stop a person from bullying me. But as I grew older, I went into more fighting classes, and I actually got to the point where I can defend myself, and anyone who annoys me, I can just either I can literally just like fight them, But as I grew older, people stopped more of the physical bullying, but the verbal bullying, to be honest, got way more. even though the physical one stopped, but the verbal one just continued on.
Yeah, you have because when you're young, it's just people are dumb when they're young, so they just look at physical strength and they think, oh, I'm stronger, then I'm better. And then as they grow up and they start to use the brain more, it becomes more of, oh, actually, I'm culturally superior or I'm racially superior in quotation marks, of course. So I'm justified to bully him because, uh, and especially in positions where there's no higher power that can
Stop them.
just keep him in place.
Yeah, like this I just find it like sometimes it's the parents and sometimes it's the child himself. In a lot of cases, you would be surprised. It's the parents not caring enough about their child, and which makes them, hey, I can do whatever I want. My parents won't do anything about it. And he's justified to do it, or he thinks he's justified to do it because there's no one to stop him, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, I mean, no one is born racist. No one uh, is born as a terrible person. Of course, there's some perhaps psychological variables that can make a person lean more towards a specific side, but generally speaking, no one is born racist, and
Mhm.
racism is just something that people learn from how the people around them act.
Mhm. Yeah, for example, if you had your whole family be a racist, they're gonna raise you to be one. If you, and just that's how it is. That's why I just find if we just stop racism now and raise our kids to just not be racist, they like racism will actually stop. But the um, problem is that parents till this day don't care. They need to be like, no, we're all equal. If you know what I mean, like we're all equal, and we all have the same rights.
Again, it's definitely the same idea of if you're not if no one or no power or no authority is keeping you in check, you're just not gonna care.
Yeah.
If no one's keeping the parents in check, the parents are not gonna care. If the parents aren't keeping the kids in check, the kids aren't gonna care. And if society just doesn't keep racism in check, racists they're just not gonna care.
Yeah. True. Do you have anything to add to this podcast?
Um, just yeah, everyone out there, take care, stay safe, and yeah,
Yeah, please stop sharing racism and please stay home. This pandemic is affecting way more than we actually thought it would. It's been your hosts, SMG Clicks and Omar. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys next time.